Hi, everyone. Today, we're lucky enough to speak with Tom McDonald, who plays in the AFL and is a key forward for the Melbourne Demons, who've just won the premiership. So, first of all, congratulations, Tom. What an achievement. You deserve it, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me on for a little chat. But yeah, pretty exciting times. Well, to be honest, it's not that exciting now. We're back home in Melbourne. It was fun for a few days in Perth. You get back to Melbourne, you're locked down again. You sort of forget pretty quickly how exciting it was for a few days over there.
Yeah, I can imagine. And then you're kind of in the isolation and the quiet of home. It's like it's not really a party.
Yeah. No, back to changing nappies and late night feeds with the babies, and essentially lockdown still here. Hopefully, look, 1 or 2 weeks until we sort of catch up with you guys a little bit in New South Wales, but pretty grim here, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, you've got the memories, and
yeah, you got the memories. Yeah, forever.
Plenty to celebrate when you can again.
Yeah.
So Tom has been posting a lot on Instagram about his meat, eating a lot of meat. He's formed a bit of a meat club with some of the other Melbourne boys. And I just wondering whether it's there's a bit of correlation with Tom's form, because Tom has become, or this year was definitely one of the key forwards in the entire league, won a premiership, cemented his position. But before that, and Tom, you can expand on this, I'd say you were maybe in and out of Melbourne's top side. Is that how you'd describe it?
Yeah, look, I probably spent the first 9 years of my career had played nearly every game that I was fit and healthy. I missed a few games here and there with injury, but I've been pretty lucky with injury. And then in 2020, I'd had a bit of I wasn't playing great. It was the COVID year and I was in and out of the side. And by the end of the year, I'd sort of finished the season out of the side. So probably the worst season of my career to that date. Even just 2 years before that, I probably had my career best year. So I'd dropped off pretty quickly and just things weren't going very well. And that was sort of a bit of a catalyst to, well, I've got to change something. I've got to do something if I wanted to keep my AFL career going. So that was sort of the catalyst for change last year.
And was diet a big part of the change that you made over pre-season heading into this year?
Yeah, so I'll summarise again. I should have done this properly the first time, but so I'd always been someone who never really had to worry about diet. I'd always, never had any health issues, never had gut issues, never had digestion problems or anything like that. But I had a doctor at the club for a few years who was a great guy, Zishan Arain, who's has been a big proponent of like a keto diet or a low carb diet for his general patient clinics. And he said, well, why don't we, like he wanted a few guys to try it. We'd had, I think is it Professor Tim Noakes, the low carb sort of doctor guru guy, who came and spoke to us and we thought we'd give it a go just as an experiment in pre-season. I actually lost weight really quickly and I was going really well with my running, but I had some downsides of doing a keto diet where I was struggling with my top end sort of power and speed work. I felt like I'd gained endurance fitness, but I'd lost power in the gym and on the footy field, which the trade-off wasn't worth it for me at that stage. Yeah. Anyway, fast forward 5-6 years and we got to where I was last year, where I'd gone from sort of just naturally being 97 kilos, 98 kilos, and I'm about 195 centimetres or 6'5". And 97, 98 was about perfect playing weight for me. And just naturally last year, I'd sort of gotten up to 102, 103 over about this course of a year. And without really even noticing, hadn't changed much, hadn't changed diet, just had done the standard sort of football diet, which was, half a plate of grains with fruit and vegetables and some protein.
Yeah, right.
And carb loading before a footy game, which was, just eat whatever you could, pancakes, rice, bread before a game of footy, it's still the way most guys do it. But it just wasn't working. So that's where I thought I wanted to go back. And I knew the only way I knew I could lose some weight was doing a lower carb diet, but I didn't want to go into the same traps that I'd had before. So that's where I started reading up about more of a carnivore diet, which was much higher protein than a keto diet and not having to worry about adding in vegetables if you didn't want to. So that's where I sort of got to, and that's what I started probably September last year.
Sure. Tom, I'm curious, like you're a big ripped figure at the moment. If you're running like 102, 103 kilos and you're carrying a bit more, Like, how does that affect the way you play?
No, look, to be honest, it barely made any difference to my time trials. Like I've always been a really good endurance runner. I've never been super, super quick, but for a tall player, my biggest strength has been my endurance running.
Big engine.
So I didn't really lose that much. If I was to go do a 3K, I wasn't that much worse than what I would have been a few years ago. But what I'd noticed was I didn't feel as sharp on the field in terms of little quick movements. I probably wasn't recovering as well. I had a few little niggles, like I had some patella tendonitis that had dogged me for about 18 months. So probably half of my form issues had come from the patella tendon as well, which was just, I couldn't really move at my best. It wasn't severe, it was just always annoying. So I wasn't, you wouldn't have gone, oh, he's fat and slow. And I wasn't fat, I was just heavier than what I normally would have been. So that was sort of, and I just, it's probably hard for some people, they might go, oh, 4 or 5 kilos isn't that much difference, but you notice it over the 22 weeks of a footy season when you've got to get up for every game and every training session.
Okay, all right. So we had the problem of potentially carrying a little bit more weight than you wanted to. And then you had a bit of success previously with keto that allowed you to drop weight really quickly. Downside was that high end, that quick, fast movement, explosiveness wasn't as good as it has been before. So that led you down a more kind of even more meat-based sort of semi-carnivore path. Is that right?
Yeah, well, look, there's limited sort of information out there, and you get people on all different sides saying it's all bullshit, and every nutritionist didn't want a bar of it. She was thinking, she said I was an idiot, and still thinks I am. But look, I started doing some more research, and a few things were saying that the higher protein and more moderating the fat, and like not having to add fat into every meal with everything you had, might help with some of that sort of thing. And it seemed to a little bit with me. So I just try to be pretty strict with, especially during the week, going with essentially steak or slow cooked meats. I do a lot of slow cooked stuff like smoked or pulled pork.
Following you on Insta. A lot of smoking.
Yeah. Hot sausage. I'll have sausages and hamburgers and anything like that. And I try and do that as much as I can. But then I was always of the opinion that with the amount of training I'm doing as well, I didn't have to be so strict that on the weekend in the off season, if I'm going to catch up with some mates and I want to have 5 or 6 beers and a Parma, I'm still going to do that as long as my 85, 90% of the rest of my time is doing what I was doing. And I was getting results doing that. So I lost the weight pretty quickly. Like I lost sort of the 5 kilos over about 6 or 7 weeks, I reckon.
Good on you.
And then I could start to be, if I wanted to have a little bit of rice before a big training session, because in pre-season we would do training sessions of 14, 15 kilometres of running with weights in the afternoon, extra skills in the afternoon. So you'd have huge energy expenditure days. So once I did that initial probably 2 months of being pretty strict with really high protein, I started to add little bits of carbs in here and there, but I still find myself going back to mostly really high protein during the week and a little bit more carbs before a footy game or before a big training session. And that seemed to have sort of balanced me out and kept body feels good and can still perform on game day and training. So that's where I've sort of landed. Not everyone, I think, if you really had to keep losing weight, you wouldn't be doing what I do, where you would add in some of the rice or, potatoes and stuff for training. But where I was at, that's been the way that's helped me still keep the footy performance up without putting on weight.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. I've been speaking to a few people recently, and kind of a common theme of experimenting with carnivore or meat-based is like a higher awareness of how your body functions and how you actually respond to food. And what I'm kind of picking up from you is that, you were strict for, let's call it 6 weeks, and you dropped that weight or most of the weight that you wanted to. And you then have the knowledge and the flexibility to go and have a Parma and some beers with your mates, knowing that you can kind of switch it back on. You can switch back on the fat burning and a few of the other benefits that come with, or potentially come with, a really low carbohydrate, high protein diet. Is that kind of a fair theme to run with? Yeah,
I think so. And I think I'm in a bit of a luxury position where I'm doing a huge amount of exercise. That's part of my job. I don't have to go and get up at 6 a.m. and go to a gym or go and knock out a 10K run before a office job, where that's really difficult to, I've got a bit of built-in sort of layer of, insurance on how many calories I can have from other stuff that isn't just protein. But the protein side of it for me was I'm a huge eater, always could never leave a plate. Like if my wife leaves food on the plate, I'll eat it just because I don't want to waste it. It was the way we were sort of brought up. Yeah. So I found that by doing if I'm eating dinner, I could do 200, 400 or 500 gram steaks and just absolutely stuff myself. And I was losing weight doing it. So I was eating so much food, but losing weight, and I never was going hungry. So that's what was appealing to me. I wasn't trying to fit in a calorie amount per day. There was no counting anything. It was just eat as much of this stuff as you want until you're full, and then go from there, and it'll look after itself. And it did. So that's what appealed to me from it. More so than even the health side of it. It was good to just not be hungry and not be trying to starve yourself.
Oh, mate, I can relate.
I don't know if that's what you found. Have you found the same thing? Like, are you eat until you're just full, or have you got the discipline to be able to go, no, I only want a little bit at a time?
Nah, I'm with you. And I think I'm a sort of similar build, not elite athlete, but similar build to you in terms of I can put on weight and I will not stop eating. But if I have, bacon and eggs for breakfast, steak and eggs, make a chili con carne and have some scrambled eggs for breakfast, then I can run all the way through to dinner, which is just totally unheard of for me, someone who, grew up perpetually hungry and gorging on, whatever I could find. So I can really relate to that. It's as a sales pitch in itself, eat as much as you like, never go hungry, don't put on weight. Well, actually, in a lot of instances, you put on muscle and you lose fat. I know that appeals to a lot of people, and particularly, our Mackenzie's Meat Club, we're all about that. We love being able to eat 250 gram steaks for dinner and just enjoy it and feel great.
Yeah. That's probably the one thing that is hard to convince probably more teammates and stuff. They go, so hang on, you just eat meat. Like, don't you want other stuff? And I sort of, always want it. Like, I'd love to go and eat donuts and everything, but I'd love to do it. It'd be awesome, but you could do that as well. But it's not a good thing to do. So, I found it, as I said, it's been beneficial for me to be something I do after footy as well. I think it'll almost be easier to do after finishing football as well, because there'll be no need to go, look, I need to, carb up with some rice before a big game, or there's not the game of footy where you finish and you go, I deserve a pizza after that or something. You're a bit more just consistent week to week. So I can see myself doing this almost, it'd be easier to do after footy as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think there's other things to do with your footy schedule. Like, for example, I know a lot of people who are in our meat club, they skip breakfast. But I'm just going to put my feet in your shoes for 1 second. Like, you got a big session in the morning, you might be a bit nervous to go straight in fasted and then to be able to too. How do you do it?
So in the off season, I'll always fast. So tomorrow morning, I've got to do a running session with a couple of boys tomorrow. We've started our running program now. Awesome. I would rarely ever eat before those sessions, but they're the sort of ones we just get up. I'll make a coffee at home. I'll go into the Richmond. We'll do our running session, do our weights, and we'd be done by sort of 11 o'clock. Okay. And then I'd go and eat. But if it's in season or in pre-season, I would normally have something to eat, because by the time you leave home, we drive out to Casey Fields where we are. It takes 50 minutes to get out there. You've got a team meeting. You got 45 minutes of warm-up time. You don't start training till 10. You don't finish till 1. That's when I'd really sort of struggle. So on those days I would eat, but in the off season I would normally fast before both of those sessions in the off season. But in season is a bit different.
Okay, interesting.
I just do it's whatever I feel like on those ones. Sometimes I'll be on the way out there and there's a Guzman Gomez on the way, and I've found scrambled eggs with chopped tomatoes and bacon, and I'll just get something like that on the way out. Is a pretty good way to do it, and you're sort of ticking off both sides of it by not having, I'm not going to get a bacon and egg roll and stuff like that, or a Macca's burger on the way out. I'm still sort of, look, it's not perfect, but it's better than most of the alternatives.
Do what you can. We need to get you on the barbell biltong. It's like air dried. Have you had barbell air dried steak?
No.
Barbell's this company run by 4 blokes in Canberra. and they've got their own biltong factory. And mate, it's like eating steak, but you can eat it anytime, anywhere, and it lasts like 6 months.
I'm going to write this down right now.
Write it down. It's got fat marbling through it, that was the thing that blew me away, because I always sort of imagined that would be the perfect product, but it actually
yeah, right.
So you got to try that.
The only other thing I'd take is, like, in the mornings, I will take. So there's a what are they called? Like desiccated sort of organ supplements, ancestral nutrition. I take them each morning with some vitamin D, but like sometimes I'll usually just have a coffee with them, and that's sort of like having a little bit of freeze-dried liver, I guess, is what it is. That's sort of what I'll have in most mornings as well.
Love it. Yeah, we stock a brand called Love Your Guts, which is organic beef liver capsules.
Okay, yeah. So same idea though.
Yeah. Mate, good on you. Yeah, I get around them every day as well. It's a very easy way to get the organs in.
That's the one thing I've never really, I've tried doing, like the liver and stuff mixed through with burgers and that, but I've just never enjoyed it enough to go, I'm going to do this every day. So the capsules have been a bit easier to tolerate.
Yeah, I feel you. I make like a pate from beef liver, which goes really well. But yes, I'm the same. I need to chop it up and cook it with mince. Liver with bacon's all right, but bacon by itself is better.
I figure if I'm trying to make it taste really good, then I'm sort of it's not worth it. I'll find another way to do it, or if I'm covering it with sauce, then it's probably not worth it either. So
I agree.
I'm not sure what the breakdown is in terms of how much benefit there is in the capsules versus the real thing. Like, is it 50% as good? Is it 90% as good? I'm not sure, but I definitely think they've made, like, you do feel good taking them. Whether it's as good as having a bit of liver every day, I'm not sure, but it's better than nothing, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Tom, you mentioned patellar tendonitis. Can you kind of tell me like what your experience with that has been, and even just like explain what it is?
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky with injuries over my career in terms of missing games, but a couple of different injuries I've had is hamstring tendinopathy and then patellar tendinopathy, where it's essentially where your kneecap connects to your lower leg, the front of your shin bone. There's a little tendon that's like maybe 20 cent piece long, and it essentially just gets really irritated, and the tendon can start to degenerate. They're just really hard to heal, especially for athletes, because they're training every day, and to heal them you really need 3 months off of just strength training only to build up the strength in the tendon to get it right before you'd start running again. So, but very rarely does a team let you just go, all right, you're just going to have 3 months off to do it, because it's so far back to come from that. So it's usually something that guys just manage and try and get through with a bit of just dealing with the pain. But it had just annoyed me for so long. But I noticed that once I'd lost the weight and probably cut out a fair bit of the stuff out of my diet, which I was having before, I noticed some real benefits in my patellar tendon. So it was a mix. It's always hard to tell, because I'd been doing the strength training plus the diet plus the losing weight. I've seen a huge improvement in that, in getting better. So it's always hard to say that's the reason why, but I think all three factors together helped me get on top of it. It was just a sort of injury. So when you bend your knee, it loads up that tendon when you go to jump back up. So it was always painful when you go to jump or land or cut, which obviously for playing footy is pretty annoying. So yeah, really, really frustrating injury to deal with, and thankfully got on top of it.
Oh, that's great, man. That's really good to hear.
I'd love to say it was just because it was from eating meat, but I can't promise that. But I think it definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you'd have lower inflammation in your body, cutting out refined carbohydrates, and definitely the nutrition and the fuel that you need for your body to function ideally. So those two things combined with your strength training and rehab and all that, all together, it's just good you've gotten on top of it. Yeah, I think so, which has been, well, just so much better. It's so annoying having those sort of injuries. You'd rather just have a hamstring tear that was done in 4 weeks and you were back, because you know how long it takes, you know how to get on top of it. But unfortunately, so many players deal with Achilles, hamstring, and knee tendinopathy. It's just it's a real annoying one for players. And there's enough.
But feeling good now, so ready to go for another preseason.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome. So in terms of kind of building towards this year coming, Are there any kind of, because mate, I'm going to put it out there, you're a bit of a biohacker now. Like you've experimented with quite a few things and you're keen to optimize your body and your lifestyle. Is there anything else that you're kind of looking to add into your regime so that 2022 can be an even better year?
So I have a PT that I use in the off season doing a lot of footwork training. So I did that last year. We'll go back to doing that and just keep adding things into that. He almost does it's kind of like American football style footwork training. It's very different to what you typically do with the AFL off season, where you just do a lot of AFL runnings, a lot of repeat 100s, 200s, 400s and 1Ks and just brutal kind of running. But quite often we neglect the shorter, sharper footwork stuff until we get back into pre-season. So I like to do a lot of that with him and then do a bit of the conditioning work afterwards.
What's his name?
So I start with him.
Give him a plug.
Yeah, his name's Jay. His Instagram page, I think, is Ivy Elite Sport. Let me have a quick look again just to make sure, because I know he changed it.
Yeah.
So if people want to look him up, he'll have a few videos of us. Yeah, Ivy Elite Sports Group.
Okay, awesome. For sure.
So we do a lot of footwork drills, kind of stuff you'd see American football players doing with their cones and ladders and hurdles and stuff like that. So we'll start that on Monday. One other thing I've added in now just recently is I had low vitamin. We had our blood work done at the start of the year, and my only real marker that was down was low vitamin D. So I've always been a bit of a sun phobe. I'm pretty fair-skinned and always overdone the sunscreen probably. So my thing has been to try and build up my sun exposure slowly this off-season. So I've always, as I've been pale, I burn pretty quickly, but I'm just trying to, today I just went and laid out in the backyard for 15, 20 minutes, and then next week try and do 25 minutes and then 30 without getting burned. Just because vitamin D levels is a really high indicator for sports people on bone fractures and stress fractures. So low vitamin D puts you at risk of having a foot stress fracture or, something like that. So that's been my little focus to get that up, so that by the time we test it again in November, I'm back up in the high range. So that's the one thing I'm looking at.
Yeah, mate, you are a biohacker. I like it.
No, I wouldn't say a biohacker. I'm just interested in this. Like, even if I wasn't playing footy, I'd still be interested in a lot of this stuff. So, we'll see how it goes.
Love it. Good on you. And
what about you? Have you got anything for me? Something I should think of, or something I haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, mate. Do you follow Knees Over Toes Guy on Instagram?
Funny you should say that. Our new fitness guy takes a lot of his stuff. We do a lot of his stuff in our weights programs. We do a lot of Nordic curls.
Awesome.
We do the Copenhagen groin sort of testing thing he does, where you have to lift yourself up with your you put your foot on a bench on the inside and you use your groins to lift yourself up. So we do a lot of preventative work with that. We actually had the best hamstring injury rates in the AFL this year. So they're crediting the Nordic curls for that.
Nice.
But yeah, a little bit of his stuff is interesting, but I just can't yet get in the positions. I've had surgery on both ankles. So I've got really stiff ankles when I try to go forwards on them.
Okay.
So I've been trying to do some of the stuff he can, but it's like it'll take me a long time to build up that sort of work and build up mobility. But funny you say that, because I've just started watching his videos the last 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, awesome. It's brilliant. Can you do step ups, or are your ankles too sort of locked?
Yeah, I can do them. I just can't do the thing where he does that, where he like reaches his knee all the way down. Punch. Yeah, I can't get that sort of position just with the ankle range. And pretty much no footballers can do that. Pretty much everyone's had a few ankle sprains in their time, and as soon as you've sprained an ankle in footy and then try to play the next week, they're almost chronically stiff. It's something that, look, I'm sure with enough time, if you did it for a year straight, we would get there. But unfortunately, just with the nature of footy and, coming back from injuries to play, you end up with a lot of stiffness in those sort of joints. But definitely things we take out. A lot of his hamstring work, especially, we implement in our training.
I'll back you in. I reckon this time next year you'll be able to do a proper.
I saw him. He put a video up yesterday of an upper body one where he was doing push-ups with his arms way back past his shoulders, and then dips where it was way up. And I've had shoulder reconstructions as well, so it made me feel a bit yuck at looking how far he could go down with them.
Yeah,
makes me jealous though.
Yeah, totally. That's freedom of movement.
Yeah. Do you follow that sort of stuff for your weights program?
Yeah, I do. Do a lot of body weight ATG style workouts. So I'll work through doing like tib raises, calf raises, ATG squats, step ups, like deep squats on a slant board.
Yeah.
As well as push ups and chin ups, trying to have full range. And in 20 minutes or half an hour, you're absolutely cooked. And it's
it doesn't sound that hard when you go a few body weight exercises, but when you do it, it's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. And last question, Tom, a favorite cut of meat or go-to meal, that sort of vibe?
My favorite would be chili con carne, to be honest, with like chuck roast put through it and slow cooked. So I used to just do a normal sort of chili con carne with mince and your chopped tomatoes and spices. But then I started putting like a kilo or two of chuck roast in the smoker, smoke that first, and then put that into the chili con carne. And that's a real winner if anyone wants to try that.
Yeah, sounds great. What do you use for spices?
So I got it from when I moved to Melbourne. When I got drafted, I went in you get put in with a host family for your first year. My host family had an American mum, and so she has her mum's Texas chili. So it's ground cumin, paprika, chili powder, bay leaf, salt and pepper. And her secret thing is to do a tin of tomato soup in there as well.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah,
tomato soup with like 3 things of chopped tomatoes.
Yeah, nice.
And that gives it like a bit of a sweetish sort of taste, a bit more of a rich flavour with the meat. Yeah. But just those normal sort of spices, nothing too fancy, but just enough to give it a bit more.
Yeah, totally. Cumin and paprika are my go-to. So 100%.
Yeah.
You got those two in there with a bit of salt and anything will taste a bit easier.
But in terms of cut of meat, look, there's probably not much better than like a Wagyu Scotch fillet. We were lucky enough to get a few cuts when we were over in Perth. We had a barbecue, we got set up, and nice. One of our friends' companies over there, I think it's Fukatari Wagyu, which is a farm over in WA, and it was some of the most unbelievable steak. And they sent a box over, and it's meant to be our meat club of 3 or 4 of us: me, Brayshaw, Wiedemann and Spargo, and then all of a sudden we had 15 blokes who had all signed up to be involved because they'd walk past each day when we were cooking it. So, if you want a nice treat, that's what I'd go to.
Well, so is Brayshaw or any of the other boys, are they sort of leaning towards a kind of zero carb, semi-carnivore approach?
Sam Wiedemann was pretty close to it. Yeah. He was doing quite similar to me. Who else? Max Gorn's always been he loves his vegetables, and his wife is big into vegetables and stuff as well, but he's always been a low carb eater, so he's just a meat and veggies sort of guy. He did that a few years ago, similar to me, when it was in off season when he wanted to lose some weight, and he's sort of stuck to it since then. I'm just trying to think. Sorry?
Tell me Petrarca likes a steak.
No. He's actually doesn't have red meat.
That's heartbreaking.
He'll have fish and white meat, but he'll have steak occasionally. Like if I had that Wagyu there, he would try it and he loved it, but he wouldn't very rarely. He's more of a fish guy. I'm just trying to think. No, there's no one who does it as seriously as like me and Sam would, but most guys will eat red meat and have a fair bit of protein, probably more than what the general population would have, but not as don't cut out the other stuff as much as we do.
Yeah, sure. Okay. No, thanks for that insight.
Hopefully we can get some more on board.
Exactly. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing like which other kind of more meat-based players pop up at other clubs. Because I know
there's a few more rugby players than footy players from what I understand. I've seen a few news stories on rugby guys. I know nothing about rugby, so you probably better tell me more living up there, but I've seen a few of them.
Yeah, the pioneers were like Sonny Bill and Quade Cooper, and they both had huge benefits like shedding weight, putting on muscle, lower inflammation, more steady mind, in the mind, everything like that. And then from there, like Marty Kapow, who plays for Manly, he's big into it. And there's plenty of other boys. Paul Momorowski plays for Penrith and he's in our meat club. And he just won a premiership too. So,
Yeah, right.
Two great players.
Well, we just need you to get down to Melbourne and have a store down in Melbourne so we can expand the club down to here.
Yeah, I know, right? I'd love to. When you come and play Sydney or GWS, send me a message and I'll get some meat to you.
Yep, sounds good. We'll have to get a barbecue sorted as well then.
Yeah, and I'll drop off a Weber.
We probably can't cook it in the hotel.
Yeah. All right, Tom, we'll wrap up there, mate. I really appreciate it. It's awesome. You're a carnivore-ish professional athlete. You had a bloody good year. You've overcome patellar tendonitis, become an absolute star, and you've won a premiership. So congratulations, mate.
Yeah, thank you. And as the last bit you just said about carnivore-ish, my thing would be to anyone who's sort of listening, go, I don't want to go all in. I don't think you have to be absolutely all in to see benefit. I reckon the majority of people, just by adding some more protein in through the day at each meal, will help them with a lot of the stuff we talked about, like they're feeling fuller for longer, not feeling like you have to go and gorge on dessert after dinner. That'd be my advice. If you want to try it a little bit to get started and see if you see any improvement, and that'd help a lot of people, I reckon. So, yeah. But thank you. Appreciate it. And let's have a chat again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tom.